In our last session, we have seen the foundational verses of Karma Yoga. When I say the foundational verses, using the lens of divine democracy. In fact, Bhashim never says this word, divine democracy, but I take the liberty to use. Why I say this divine democracy? Here Bhagavan says that ye yadamam prapadyante tam stadaiva bhajamya. In whatever level you want to worship me, wherever you are. So that is where the agency-less action and the capability to worship in whatever capacity. And the biggest promise Bhagavan Krishna gives is all are qualified for realizing the higher truth. All are qualified. The only difference is basically few are in a different stage, but all are qualified. And what is the ultimate goal in life? Realizing this higher truth. So, am I the body? Mano buddhi ahankara chitta ninaham nacha shrotra jihve nacha grana netre nacha vyoma bhumir na tejo na vayu. So I cannot be any of these. I cannot be the five elements, though I have a body. And it is my body. So I cannot be the body because the body is ever changing and I am able to witness the changes in the body. Similarly, in the five indriyas, Panchendriya, Karmendriya, Jnanendriya, and so-called the Andhakaranam, Manasa, Buddhi, Chittam, Ahankara. So I cannot be any of these changing endeavors where I am able to witness the changes happening in my intellect, I am able to see the changes happening in my thinking process, how my mental models are evolving, how my anxiety is changing, how much I have evolved in the past few years. What is the single thread? The unchanging reality. And the only purpose in life is basically to realize the highest truth, this unchanging reality here in this life. Here in this life and now itself. Even if it is late, Bhagavan Krishna says it is not late. You start. While we live in this world, this is the ultimate goal in life. Realize the highest truth. And you may think that for that we have to give up certain things. That's what Arjuna also tried to do. Arjuna tried to give up the position of Yodha and tried to run away. Withdraw from his duties as a warrior and trying to run away, giving up the position of a Yodha. So that's where Bhagavan says our workplace or our family, wherever you are, in whichever coordinates you are, you can convert that place to be a temple for self-realization. Your home can become an ashram, tapovanam. Nivritta ragasya graham tapovanam. The graham can become a tapovanam. And we don't need to externally renounce things. There is no need of an external renunciation. What is really needed? What traits are needed? The mind has to be free from the possessiveness. The mind has to be free from ego. The mind has to be free from other cravings. If we are able to do that, wherever you are, whether you are in the family or in the work or in the middle of responsibilities or whatever positions you have in life, from there you can start. Wherever you are, right? You don't need an external renunciation. The daily living, whatever dimensions of our daily living is there, they all will become the path of yoga. And acting in this world without the so-called possessiveness, ego, desire, etc. That is so-called as the inner bondage. So do we really need a locational change? No need. Do we really need to change the endeavors that we are doing in our daily life? No. And do you really need to change the activities that we are doing in our daily life? No. There is only one change needed. That change is internal. Because when we do the work, we need to get the results, but what is the attitude that we are having while we execute the jobs? So the answer is basically the change is just internal. And what is that change we are looking? The real change is the real freedom, the liberation that we need. It is not about changing the things that we are doing on a day-to-day life. It is all about transforming how and why we do those activities. Same office, same responsibility, same family. But one thing, an inner attitude with a different inner attitude. When we say different inner attitude, no ego, or even at least less ego to start with, less anxiety, more clarity, and doing things as offering. And by having this kind of characteristics within us, what we will achieve is basically more balance. The ultimate outcome is basically more and more balance in life. So one thing we need to understand is, we all, or maybe the general perception is that a spiritual life or a Vedantic study is something that one can use for escaping from the life. It is never like that. Vedanta or spirituality is not an escape from the life. It is the higher way of living our lives. That's why Bhagavan says in the beginning, Imam Vivasvade Yogam, the true yogam. Everybody should become a yogi. The great warrior Arjuna is blessed by Bhagavan Krishna that Tasmad Yogi Bhava Arjuna, you become a yogi. So what is then the definition of yoga? When we say it is not an escape from the life, wherever we are, whatever work we are doing, the only difference is basically the internal calibration, so called as the attitude that we have while we execute the work. And not having the ego, not having anxiety, ultimately will lead to a balance, whether you are success or whether you get success or failure. That is where in the second chapter we have seen Samatvam Yoga Uchyade. Yoga is called as the Samatvam or Samabuddhi. Further, Bhagavan says, Dukheshu Anudiknamana Sukheshu Vigadaspraha Vidaraga Bhayakroda Sthidadir Muniruchade. A person, a wise person, a Muni is the one who will never get entangled with the Sukha Dukkham. Vida, Raga, Bhaya, Krodham. No, all these are not affected by a Muni or a Yogi. So keep a balance irrespective of success or failure in life and act without a selfish attachment. Don't become the reason for, or don't depend upon the results to make you happy. When you think about results upfront, then you will become selfish. I need this, I want to make this happen through me. Instead of that, you be the adhikari for doing the karma. Karmanya, 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 karmanyevadhikaraste ma bhaleshu gadachana. So you become psychologically independent on the results and you just become the karma hedu rather than becoming the karma bhala hedu. So let's take an example. When you say, when we say this, you become a nimittam, you become an equipment, don't expect the results. Let's take the example of a teacher who is giving knowledge or imparting education to the students in a school, in a class. And we all know that few of the students may not listen. What should be the approach of the teacher there? So can the teacher take a stance like, yeah, if you don't listen, so why should I teach? Should the teacher give up the right spirit of imparting the knowledge where the bigger part of the class is getting benefited? What should be the attitude of the teacher there? Should the attitude be, a few corner cases will be there and let me not put my best efforts, or majority are getting the results out of my teachings, let me put the best, let me put the sincere effort in giving or imparting this knowledge. What will be the approach of a teacher? Or maybe in another scenario, a doctor who is treating a patient. You don't know what would be the outcome of the treatment. What should be the attitude while you treat a patient? Let me try to give the best. Maybe the treatment may get benefited. Is that the way of thinking or is it different? I don't know. I will do a bad job of giving some medicines. What is the right attitude that one has to have in life? Maybe from a modern point of view, the systems thinking approach. Think you as a part of the system. And the actions that you have or the actions that you do in the daily scenario should create more meaning. You don't really need to look at the outcomes, or you don't need to look at the negative side of the things. See, once upon a time, there lived a farmer whose horse ran away on a fine day morning. And that farmer's neighbor immediately came to know and came and commended, "Oh, such a bad luck." So this cool-headed farmer responded, "Yeah, maybe." Next day, the horse came back. Not only just came back, came with a companion horse, another horse. So now the neighbor's response is, wow, that is good. It's wonderful. And our farmer responded, maybe. And his son, farmer's son, was in the process of taming or training the companion horse. And while during this taming, the farmer's son got farmer's son's leg got injured. Now the neighbor cries and comment, oh, terrible. So they hear the farmer again responds, maybe. Now the war situation has happened in that country, and the soldiers came to this village to recruit young men, mainly for what? For fighting or preparing for the war. And now what would be the situation? His son's leg got injured and he got spared. So now what to what to comment here? See, we all have to follow the farmer's way. Let the mind does not react too quickly too quickly to the temporary success and failure. That should be the attitude. Staying steady among the chaos. So one whose mind is undisturbed amidst sorrows and free from craving is called as a sage of wisdom. That is what Bhagavan says. Dukheshu anudiknamana sukheshu vigadaspraha vida raga bhaya krodha stidadir muniruchyate. So discovering the freedom while fully participating in our life. This is the secret of yoga. While we explore the subsequent verses today, it is also important to understand the one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is called as a wise. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is called as a wise. So as I mentioned in the beginning, it is basically a mindset change, a calibration that we have to have in our inner realm. We don't need to escape life to discover this inner freedom. We all need to attain wisdom not after our retirement, not after we have a lot of gray hairs, not after the marriage of the elder one, or not after the 60 years. Bhagavan says, Ihaiva, Ihaiva. In the middle of whatever you are doing, in the middle of the responsibilities, in the middle of these conflicts that we have in life, whether to marry or not, or what time I should get settled, right? When you have all those thoughts, while you do the duty, the ultimate goal in life is basically to find this sweet spot of freedom which is within all of us. And Bhagavan says that all path can lead to liberation wherever you are, whatever you are doing. Right? Why I am re-emphasizing this is basically in the modern world, people usually say I am busy, and even parenting is also becoming challenge. People are not willing to become parents. People are not willing to become or to get married. So that's where Bhagavan says a mother who is caring the child selflessly is also in this path of self-knowledge and liberation. Selflessly serving the child. An engineer who is working in an organization with integrity, this path will also lead to liberation. Or a businessman who is doing business, earning outcomes out of the business ethically. Or a leader or a politician or a political leader or a leader, whoever is serving the society without ego, without possessiveness, and thinking in a bigger picture, is also into the path of liberation. See, one thing we need to understand is, can we renounce our actions? Is it possible? If we all renounce the actions, who will do the work in this world? See, that's what Arjuna was also trying to do. Let me renounce this action. That's where Bhagavan brings the secret of yogam. You cannot renounce your action, but you do have a freedom. What is that freedom? You all can purify your actions. I don't give up the actions. Don't change your coordinates. Don't change the job. Don't change the company. Don't change the geography. Don't renounce your actions. Don't shift your profession. Do all those things, but you use those actions to purify yourself. So that's where we have seen this in the last session. We saw this sutra of renunciation. What is that? This sutra of liberation is Namam Karmani Limpanti Name Karma Bhale Spriha Iti Mam Yo Abhijanadi Karma Virna Sabadhyade. So, 3 practical steps Bhagavan says. What is the step 1? Step 1 is basically shift the identity from I am the doer to I am the one who is witnessing these actions. I am this witness consciousness. Shift the identity from I the doer to I the witness. Shift the identity from you controlling the outcomes to I becoming an instrument for, or I becoming the instrument in a larger order. Shift the identity from I am the doer to I am the one who is witnessing these actions. It is happening through me. It is happening through my body. It is happening through the indriyas, karmendriyas. And shift the identity of the ego from I am doing to I am the one who is witnessing the things. I am the one who is witnessing the actions that are happening through this body, mind, intellect, senses. I trying to control the outcomes to I becoming an instrument, I becoming a nimitta. That's what Bhagavan says to Arjuna. You become the nimitta. Nimitta matram bhava savya sahajin. You become the nimitta. You become an instrument in a larger order. That is the step 1. Step 2, you act fully without craving. Give your 100% efforts in action. You just focus on executing the action. And when you have a 100% sincerity to contribute to the action, and at the same time you have a 100% release methodology of your attachment to the outcomes. So 100% contribution, 100% release. 100% contribution to what? To do the action. And 100% release to what? To the outcome of the action. 100% sincerity to karma, and 100% release to the bhala. Na karma bhala hedu. You don't become the karma bhala hedu. You don't become the reason for the outcomes. You just become the karma hedu. Why this philosophy? Because best performance will come when the mind is not preoccupied with the results. And best performance will come when the preoccupation of the mind is not there, and the internal clarity is there and purity is there, because preoccupation is not getting clouded in the mind. That is step 2. What is the step 3? Step 3 is basically see action as a yoga. See action as a yoga. So we have to be very clear here. When you say yoga, we have to understand that samatvam yoga uchyade, and not getting affected due to the results. So balance and detachment. So when you see the action as a yoga, yoga is all about inculcating balance and detachment. From where this balance and detachment comes? Because you, the self, is completely detached. The self has no role here. Self never possesses any ego. So then where is the question of inner disturbance coming? If you see the action as a yoga, then the inner disturbance is not going to have. And again, when I say inner disturbance is not going to be there, the freedom from repetitive psychological cycles. When we are getting freedom from these repetitive cycles, what happens is basically there is no kalankam coming into the mind, there is no stains gathered into the mind. Liberation is then and there happening in the middle of the life. This is so called as the democratization of liberation. Everybody can evolve. What is really needed? 2 things: the right action and the right attitude. And what is right action? Today we will see what is the science of distinguishing between action, inaction, and wrong action. Karma, akarma, vikarma. We will see this today. What is right action? What is the science of understanding what is action, what is inaction, what is wrong action? What is the answer for this? Answer is simple: know your true self. That self as the center of all activities. That self as the reason for all activities, but unattached to the results. And what happens in life is basically the actions that we do usually chain our personality. When I say chain the personality, basically it brings different vasanas. It brings lot of impurities. It brings lot of impressions. And when these impressions flow inside, what happens is basically they create a stain behind. And not only that, the new actions which we produce with the backlog of those stains will produce another set of vasanas, and that they will further bind. This is just a chain reaction, and finally we are not able to think freely and act. We will be unable to think freely and act, and we will get confused by these vasanas. We will create newer set of thoughts, And ultimately, what happens in the technology world, we call it as an automation to autonomy. Ultimately, the set of vasanas will drive an individual based on the past impressions, leading to a state that we cannot act freely, even if we know we are doing something wrong. For example, a person who consumes alcohol, right, complains that, yeah, the alcohol is killing. That person is aware of that. This alcohol is spoiling my life. There is also understanding that, and that person weeps, cries, confesses that I am helpless. I cannot give up. Why? Because the habits are formed based on the accumulation of the stains or those vasanas. Whatever we are doing is wrong. We know that. But we are not able to come out of the clutch of those vasanas. So that is the reason that Bhagavan says that don't accumulate these vasanas. You do things as a yoga. And what is yogam? Yogam is all about doing actions without the I identity. And when we don't possess the I identity, what happens is basically one cannot gather and procreate any new vasanas, because that will dwindle the knowledge of who truly am I, the true self. Because this true self is beyond all entanglements. And if you are entangled at the level of mind and ego, we are missing that. So this is the secret of actions that Bhagavan says. And again, this is not something that this is a new knowledge. It is elaborated in the books, it is elaborated in the scriptures, and it is followed by our seekers. That's what Bhagavan says today. Evam jnatva kritam karma purvairavi mumukshubhi kuru karmaiva tasmatvam purvai purvadaram kritam. Evam jnatva kritam karma purvairavi mumukshubhi kuru karmaiva tasmatvam purvai purvadaram kritam. So evam jnatva, so this manner, having known by the sincere people, sincere, what is the right word, the mumukshubis, the seekers, they performed karma eva tasmatvam purvai purvadaram kritam. So knowing this, our ancient seekers of spiritual enlightenment in the past performed actions on what knowledge? Knowing that the real self is unaffected by anything, and it has no anxiety, and it has no anxiety to gain the results. It has no anxiety to gain the results. This is the right mental attitude that who followed the seekers followed. It is not by escaping from the actions. Liberation never comes through the escapism. If you see the great masters, they worked, they led, they taught, they protected, they created, they served. What is the difference here? The difference is all about the inner attitude. Say a modern man told his friends that I renounced the worldly life. So his friends asked, wow, that's wonderful. How could you manage? And how did you renounce your ego? This man says, yeah, I could renounce it, but you guys must appreciate my sacrifice. Because what is this appreciation? I have renounced. So if somebody has to appreciate the sacrifice of renunciation, then meaning is what? Ego is still there. It is not about an external renunciation in life. It is easy. External renunciation is easy. Avoiding a tea is easy if tea is bothering. But the consistent thinking that we have internally that, oh, I did not have tea today. Due to not having tea, I am getting headache. Or what will I do? Will I be able to manage? Tea is a problem. Tea is not asking you to drink. So similarly, external renunciation is easy, very, very easy. But what is really difficult is the internal renunciation. So running away will not help any one of us. That is what Bhagavan says to Arjuna also. Hey Arjuna, don't run away. You are the nimittam, right? You are the reason for making this war to a closure. And the actions will never bind anybody. Actions will never bind. What binds is all about the attitude. Attitude behind the actions. What are those attitudes? I am the enjoyer, I am the doer, I am averse of these things, right? I have a craving, I don't like. All vibhakti. And our ancient seekers know this secret. They lived in this secret. They did not renounce the external actions. They renounced the ragam, deshvam, kartrutvam, bhoktrutvam. They renounced the attachment, aversion, enjoyership, doership. Because they know the real nature. Who truly am I? If I know my true self, then it is easy. Because raga, dvesha, kartrutva, bhoktrutvam cannot affect me because I am the true self, which is free from doership, which is free from enjoyership. And when I know myself, let the actions happen through this body and mind. That's it. So knowing the actionless nature of the self, one is freed of all effects born out of action. What are the effects born out of action? Ragam, dvesham, kartrutvam, bhoktrutvam. That's it. So knowing the actionless nature of the self, who truly am I, one can be freed of all effects born out of the actions. Raga, dvesha, kartrutvam, bhoktrutvam. The self, the true self, is ever detached. The Atman, the true self, the true principle, which is always detached. In Chatusloki Bhagavatam, we can see the words with Anvaya Vediregabhyam Yatsyat Sarvatra Sarvada. Know what is permanent, what is impermanent in this world. What remains through all the changes. Let us take our example in every stage of our lives. Balyam, Kaumaram, Yauvanam, and going forward, the next stages. The body is changing. Body continuously changes. Is our sense of I am remaining continuous is disappearing anytime. I am always there. I am the one who is observing. I am the one who is undergoing the changes. The sense of I remains continuous. So we do have the possibility to renounce the work, but our life cannot go without the work. So we have to have the attitude. What is the attitude? Have yogam in us. And not acting and keeping quiet will never lead to freedom. That's what Bhagavan says to Arjuna. You cannot be, peaceful when you run away from this Kurukshetra place. How can you become peaceful? Inaction will never lead to freedom. And one understanding we all have to have is basically, we may think that action will lead to direct freedom. So we may think that karma is a direct means for liberation, but we need to understand that it is an indirect means. Because indirect means in the sense, use karma as a mechanism to purify. That's why I'm saying it's an indirect effect. Because the external actions cannot just help. Doing action cannot just help. That's why actions become an indirect means to purify ourselves, because it helps prepare us to this knowledge. What is this knowledge? Knowledge is all about gaining who truly am I and how I should not get affected. So it is an indirect outcome when we do actions. It leads to liberation with this knowledge, with this understanding. So that mind will always depend on this knowledge. Whenever the ego pops up, right? The ego pops up in the mind is also having the knowledge that ultimately my purpose is to purify myself by doing these actions, not to gather the stains. Verse number 16. Kim karma kim agarmeti kavayopyatra mohitaah tatte karma pravakshyami yajnatva mokshase shubhad. Kim karma kim akarma idi kavaya api atra mohida tat te karma pravakshyami yajnatva mokshase ashubhat. What is action? What is inaction? So kim karma, kim meaning what is action, kim akarma, what is actionlessness. Idi, thus kavaya api atra mohida. So kavaya meaning we can say it's the seekers. The api atra mohida. So they all got confused. Even the seekers were confused. Tadate karma pravakshyami. So that to you, what action is, I will tell you. Yat jnatva mokshase ashubhat, which knowing, right, you will get released of the inauspiciousness. So what is action? What is inaction? This question was there. There were also confusions in the wise. They also got confused. Therefore, I will impart you the path of actions, knowing which you shall be liberated from. They also got this kind of struggle. So by knowing that action, which you shall and be liberated from suffering, Arjuna. So the core idea is basically, one thing we need to understand is, not all actions, or we can say not all activities are true actions, and not all inactivities or silence. Let's take this as a silence as a term here. Not all silence is true inaction. See, for example, one may look very busy, and let's take going through the reels, very busy, reels after that, again, 4 hours continuously. Too busy today. Or another person who is keeping quiet but inwardly agitated, not talking due to the agitations that are there in the mind, but fully agitated inwardly. So how will you qualify this behavior of these two people? Can we say all activities are true actions, or all silence are true inactions? You need to see the purpose behind. So the nature of karma is very difficult to know. That's what we have to see in this verse. So that is where our wise also had struggles to understand the real nature of karma and akarma. Verse number 17. Karmano hyapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmana agarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gadihi. Karmano hi api bodhavyam cha vikarmana agarmanah cha bodhavyam gahana karmana gadi. One must understand what action is, what wrong action is, and what actionlessness is. In order to understand fully the nature of proper actions, in order to understand fully the nature of proper actions, one must also understand the nature of wrong actions or contrary actions and the nature of inaction. Now it's slightly confusing. So 3 types of actions: right actions, inactions, and contrary action or the forbidden actions. Right action meaning what? Doing the work, right work, to lift one in this evolution. Inaction is basically what? Let's go to the forbidden action or contrary action. Contrary action is something which is harmful to the body, harmful to the mind, harmful to the individual. That will pull one down. Whereas right action is that which will lift, doing the swadharma. Whereas the vikarmam is basically that will pull one down. Now, what is akarmam? What is inaction? It is not in idleness. It is basically the attitude behind the right actions that I will not allow the ego to pop up. So the egolessness while we do the right action, that is called as the akarmam. So akarmam is all what? About discriminative intelligence. Whether my actions create bondage or not, how to avoid bondage through the self-knowledge. So one way we can say akarmam is the self-knowledge behind the right action. See, in life we will have activity and inactivity. we will do karma, we will try to avoid certain karma called vikarma. Then we will also have a nitya, naimittika, kamya karma daily or once in a while we do. Or the kamya karma is basically the desire prompted actions or desire prompted duties. But what is the attitude while we do the activity, while we do the karma? The attitude should be the capability not or allowing the ego not to pop up. This is called as the akarmam. Verse number 18. Karmanyagarmaya pashyet karmani cha karmaya sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayukta kritsna karmakrud. Karmani agarma ya pashyed agarmani cha karmaya saha buddhiman manusyeshu sayukta kritsna karmakrut. So he who sees the action in inaction, the one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is wise among the people. Such a person is called as a yogi. And such a person is also called as a perfect doer of action. So one who sees actionlessness in action, karmanya agarma ya pashyed, and full action in actionlessness, akarmani cha karma yaha. That person is the intelligent among men. So it's called a sabuddhi man manusheshu. Such a person is a person who has the integrated personality. What is this? Supreme consciousness pervading within me is the reason for me to execute the action. And that supreme consciousness is ever in a state of actionlessness. That clarity is there. So outwardly active, inwardly egolessness, inwardly egoless. Action in inaction, meaning what? Outwardly inactive but inwardly full of desires, anxiety, compassion, agitation. So the wise one will never have this anxiety, comparisons, agitations, etc. because they continue to act in this world with the right understanding. And one more thing, don't wait for perfect conditions for our upliftment or evolution. Wherever we are, wherever you are, in our office or in business or in parenting or in teaching, everything can become a part of our yoga. The question is, what is the state of mind I own while I work? Can I act without arrogance, anxiety, and ego? So that is where, when I say the inner attitude, consciously live in this world. Drop the agency and attachment. When these are not there, the work will continue to work. But what is different here is basically our life will become a play. Our life will become a flow. Our life will become spontaneous. Our life will become natural. That's what our Purva Suris, Rishis, the wise did. So you follow the path of yoga You understand karmam, agarmam, vikarmam. Akarmam is all about with right knowledge and right attitude executing the work that is destined. So, have a life without agency and attachment. When these are not there, work will become a play, your life will become a play, the life will become a flow, it becomes spontaneous, it becomes natural. This is the way of yoga. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.